Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, we are going to be talking about a period of above normal temperatures for North America and the United States, and an active weather pattern as winter comes back with a vengeance later into February. We'll dive into the details in today's weather forecast. Now, good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great start to their work week on your Monday morning. Let's look back 48 hours ago to our northeast snowstorm that did pack a punch here with a few inches worth of snow across northern Pennsylvania, south central New York State, through portions of southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, getting through Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. A lot of these areas saw anywhere from 4 to 8 inches worth of snow in a narrow swath from around the Boston region back through Albany, New York, and into northern Pennsylvania with a decent swath of snow. That same system is moving off the East Coast as we go through this morning, and you can see a few flurries still left to go across Boston, a few flurries left in the Hartford region and New York City, including Long Island here this morning. But that system is quickly on the move to the east and off the East Coast this morning. Now let's look out here across the United States at some of these temperatures we're waking up to this morning. You can see temperatures for the most part across the north central United States below freezing, but not significantly so. We see temperatures into the middle and upper 20s out there. We know that it can be a lot colder this time of year, so we'll take it. Further to the south, across the Gulf Coast states, the southeast coast, and the mid-Atlantic coast, the temperatures are above freezing into the 30s, 40s, and some 50s down here into southern Florida. And of course, we have milder air across the west coast this morning. As we go into the afternoon, we have snow-free ground down here across the southern and southeastern United States. Temperatures will easily achieve the 40s, 50s, and 60s out here, and yes, even lower 70s this afternoon. Down across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, down into San Antonio, and even Abilene, Texas this afternoon. And just looking at those temperature departures from normal, this is your temperature anomaly. You can see across southern Canada here from British Columbia through Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and into Ontario, Canada. A lot of these areas 20 to 30 degrees above the norm for this time of year as we go into the afternoon. And much of the United States outside of the East Coast here, where we have that trough and that system moving out, creating those near to below normal temperatures, we're seeing above normal temperatures. So temperatures here across the west, the central and northern U.S. is going to be 10 to 20 degrees above the norm for this time of year as we go into the afternoon. If you like detailed weather breakdowns across North America and the tropics as tropical weather season is drawing closer, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. We will continue to keep you covered here with accurate weather forecasts right on this channel. Also, be sure to press the like button down below. It helps out more than you know. So let's kind of zoom out the picture and show you what is happening across North America. And what we're seeing here today is a ridge of high pressure across southern and central Canada, but also across the northern and northwestern United States as represented with these orange, red, and pink colors. You see the blues off across the East Coast and into the western Atlantic basin. That is our trough that's bringing our unsettled weather across the Northeast this morning. That is actually on our way out. And then our attention will actually turn more up here toward the Gulf of Alaska as we start to see a potent trough and low pressure start to develop up here into the Northeast Pacific. That will dive southeastbound toward the West Coast as we go through later on this week. So let's focus right now on right now. So let's look at the current weather conditions across the United States. Fairly quiet outside of a few flurries and snow showers with that system departing across the Northeast. Very dry in the middle of the country with that high pressure system. And then we have a little bit of rain up here into the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada. Really not that big of a deal. Going through today, this is going to be one of the quietest periods we have seen in quite some time. About 100% of us are pretty much dry this afternoon and going into the evening hours. Going into tonight, though, we do have a little disturbance moving across the central Great Lakes region. This will be heading out of Canada into the United States, and we could be seeing a mix of rain and snow up here with some wet snowflakes across the UP of Michigan, northern and central lower Michigan here as we go into tonight. That will drop south into the Ohio Valley. Places like eastern Indiana, Ohio, getting into Kentucky, we'll start to see those wet snowflakes overspreading those areas through the day on Tuesday. And then that system will kind of move off to the east-southeast and lose its luster as we go into the Tuesday night time frame, leaving just some drizzle or a few snow showers for the mid-Atlantic during that period. But this system will be putting down some precipitation, so we don't want to discount that for our folks up here into the Great Lakes. Going from now through the middle of the week, this takes you through Wednesday, January 31st, which is actually coincidentally the last day of January. Some decent snows up here across the Great Lakes, and we could be seeing an inch to maybe up to 3 inches worth of snow with this from the eastern UP of Michigan down through eastern lower Michigan here, maybe up to an inch of snow there in eastern Indiana, into Ohio and northern Kentucky going through that midweek time frame. So as long as you drive slow out there and leave plenty of time to get to your destination, things should be a-okay for you going through midweek. Now, turning our attention back to the west, this is mid to late week. Very energetic jet stream here across the southwestern U.S. and the southern U.S. Look how far south it is here across southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, and northern Mexico. This is as far south as we've seen our jet stream so far this El Nino winter. And looking at an El Nino, this isn't a typical winter pattern for an El Nino. You have a high pressure ridge over southern and central Canada bringing warmer but also drier conditions with a less active polar jet stream. It typically brings drier conditions to the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and especially into the Ohio Valley. But look at this classic pattern setting up as we go through mid and late week and probably beyond. We have a very persistent Pacific jet stream pumping in that eastern Pacific moisture across the southern tier of the United States, which actually will also cool us down with a lot of cloud cover and precipitation out there moving forward. So let's go to that midweek time frame. This is on Wednesday, the 31st of January as we close out the month. And what you look at here is an omega blocking pattern. So you see a ridge of high pressure here across southern Canada and the northern U.S., a trough across the east, and a potent trough across the west coast and entering into the west coast by the middle of the week. And this is a blocking pattern because the high pressure system up here isn't going anywhere. This trough out west is actually going to have to move south and eastbound and get around this high pressure as we go through the week. And you can see on Friday that is occurring. This high pressure ridge is actually going to become even stronger by later in the week, and that will support more of a system moving across the southwest, the southern U.S., and eventually the southeast towards the weekend. So let's look here first at our temperature anomalies from midweek in through the weekend, and you can see above normal temperatures are favored, especially right underneath of that high pressure ridge across southern Canada and the northern U.S., and then near the coastal regions here, especially into California, down toward Arizona there in the Baja of California, we're seeing below normal temperatures mid to late week and into the weekend with that trough and associated storm system moving in. And let's look at our temperatures across the United States with that pattern in place. You can see on Wednesday, very nice temperatures for late January standards. I mean, we're talking the 40-degree line all the way up into southern Canada. That is going to melt a considerable amount of our snowpack left over across the northern U.S. As we go into Friday, much of the same. We see a little bit more cooler air pushing south, but still some nice temperatures to start off early February, and that really just continues right into the weekend. Notice we have a little pocket of colder air up here toward Quebec, and we also have a little pocket of cold air across western Canada that will be diving southeastbound. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's look at our snow depth in inches. So this morning, here is where we lie with our snowpack on the ground, and you can see a few inches of snow across the northern U.S. here. This is a snowpack that is actually up to a foot. Just a couple of weeks ago, we have actually eaten several inches of off this snowpack across eastern Nebraska, Iowa, northern Illinois, getting into Wisconsin and northern lower Michigan. And look at where we're going to be by the end of the week. This is on February 2nd. Look at that. Almost nothing on the ground across those regions, maybe an inch or two and a spot or two. And then as we go into next week, this is a week from today on Monday, February 5th. And look at that. We just have nothing on the ground there across most of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, or the Great Lakes. So those temperatures will be able to soar for late January and early February standards. Now let's look at precipitation chances. So going in towards midweek, this is the end of the month, Wednesday, January 31st. A little system here, not that big of a deal, just a nuisance across the Carolina coast here. Most of the precipitation will be offshore. High pressure and firm control across the middle of the country. And then we turn our attention out west. That trough will begin to move in, producing some rain for Washington State, Oregon, and Northwest California. So our places into Seattle, Portland, and down there towards Sacramento, we'll start to see some of that rain by Wednesday and Wednesday night. By Thursday, that moves further inland, getting crushed with snow here across portions of the Sierras. This is going to have a lot of moisture with it, so that will be some nice snows for the Sierras there on Thursday. And as we go into Friday, all that moisture just continues to move further east, entering into the Rockies and the Four Corners region by this time. And even by the weekend, some of that energy pushes across the Great Plains and across the Deep South with some more heavy rain over areas that already are saturated with the rain down here across the Gulf Coast as we go into the weekend. So from today all the way through next Monday, a week from today on the 5th of February, here's where we stand with our precipitation. This is additional precipitation here. You can see some decent rains out west, especially here for California, and then that will transfer across the Rockies and into the central and southern plains, and then eventually near the Gulf Coast as we go through the week. And some of these rainfall amounts near the Gulf Coast could be 1 to as much as 3+ inches, and some of these areas are already saturated, so we'll have to keep an eye on the flooding threat. But with our snowfall prospects, we have cold air coming out of Western Canada down across the western third of the country. This will actually be producing some decent snows for the ski resorts out west and the watershed out here as well. The Sierras definitely getting a couple of feet of snow between now and next Monday. Definitely some good news out across the west. Now let's look here at our second week into February. Very interesting pattern starting to upcome here in towards the second week of the month. You can see that high pressure ridge, that blocking, still up here into eastern Canada. It will wobble back and forth as we go through early February, but in general, that will remain to the north. We have that active Pacific jet stream across the south, and that will usher in kind of like a highway for storms. You see another storm system coming in off the west coast during the second week of February. That will transfer downstream across the eastern third of the country during that third week into February. When you start to ease up on that blocking and actually move that further west as we have ridging building across western Canada by this time frame. So let's look at our temperature anomalies from that 5th through the 12th time frame of February. Notice that blocking still going to be creating a lot of the mild and dry air across portions of southeastern and southern Canada and the northern U.S., in particular the upper Midwest. That's typically what we see during these winter El Nino patterns. Then across the west, look at all the cold air coming out of Alaska. Alaska has been very cold and frigid lately. We're going to see that bleed south and into the western third of the country during that 5th through the 12th time frame. But notice that starts to bleed east across the southern and southeastern U.S. and up the east coast as we go into that third week in February, the 12th through the 19th time frame. And what this means for snowfall chances will be out across the west, we're going to get absolutely hammered with snow across the Rockies and the Sierras. Several feet of snow as we go through that second week into February. We're going to see some snow chances to the north across the northern plains. And then as we go into the third week into February, there are some signs in some of the ensemble models showing a decent chance for some snow for at least southeastern Canada, parts of the Great Lakes, maybe some lake effect snow, and also interior New England, depending on that storm track. Now, I will caution you this. We don't have much of a snowpack left after this week across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, or the Ohio Valley. So it really depends. How warm do we get, and will it actually support snowfall across the Northeast in that I-95 corridor with this El Nino pattern? You could have have the perfect El Nino pattern, but if you're missing just one ingredient, which is the cold air, you can have all the moisture in the world, but that does not mean you're going to get snow. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go through the middle and end of February. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I know it was a lot to get through. I appreciate your patience with me, and thank you to all the old subscribers, new subscribers, and daily viewers here on this channel. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below for detailed weather breakdowns and on the tropics and North America. Make sure to press the like button down below. It helps out more than you know. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Monday out there.